Okay, here I am on day 2. This has dried pretty decently right now. I put it on top of this little container in here for now so I can get a little bit under the arms here. I'm going to add the arms. I made another batch of clay. I'm ready to start mixing this in, finish all the sculpting today. So remember, just grabbing small pieces and adding to the actual shape, and I'm gonna have to be careful in here not to drop her to the ground. I like to let her dry over on top of this thing here, and the cement will actually blend in with the dry one pretty well, so don't worry about that being an issue. It just sticks right to it, and if you add a little water it will blend in even better. So if you're having any trouble with that, I would just dab your fingers in water a little bit and I think you'll get the result that you want to blend, which I will eventually do. You know I do that after you. But just by rubbing my fingers like this on the edge. So I got this going this way, and I want her other arm to also do the same thing. And I'm hoping today to add some hair to her, finish up the wings on her ears. And if you were curious as to why I make wings coming out of the ears and not the backs of my character, if you watch some of my other videos, you'll know about my history with hearing loss. I'm extremely hard of hearing. I am deaf on one ear and hard of hearing on the other. So I do this as a representation of, I guess, my freedom and liberation from allowing things that I used to believe were limiting about myself to becoming, my asset, my superpower, my strength. I believe we can do that with everything in life, really. Anything about you that you think is lesser than or a disability, you can start looking into it in a different light, and it can become something so powerful. So in my case, how did this become a superpower? Well, I brought it to the arts, and by bringing it to the arts, I began to share and inspire other people who are going through similar experiences with the work that I do. So not only this inspires people to feel like they're being seen in their journey in life, but also inspires them to also share what they're going through in some way, and it helps heal. We all heal each other. We have the power to do that. So sometimes just think about something that you find very difficult for you to deal with, and how could you turn that around into just seeing that as what is unique about you. So this is just something that is unique about who you are. Right in the beginning, when I started doing this kind of work, I thought about putting the wings on the ear of one of the early characters, and that just took on. I really enjoyed doing that. So that is what I do now. And there it is, just starting to have little hands. I don't know where this is going, guys. Again, details are hard right now, so just gonna start looking into the areas that need a little more adding to it. There is a little similarity to working with actually wet clay in here. Not so much the same. You're having all the paper fibers in there. It's definitely more sticky, and then wet clay. Of course, wet clay, there's so many different kinds, so you can get different experiences depending on the wet clay you use. There's some wet clays that I've worked with that don't even need that much water to it. You can completely just play with with the clay for a long time without adding any water. I forgot the one that I used last that has that quality that is just wonderful. Like, you really don't need to add the water. So I'm gonna add this wonderful little bone that we have that goes from behind the ear all the way to the collarbone. So if you don't know what that's like, I highly advise to study some anatomy because you can learn. Might not know the name of all these bones, but I kind of learn what they look like and where they're supposed to go. And if I do get lost in that, I can always go back to it and, and learn those lessons again. But they really add a nice touch of believability if you want to make something more realistic. Then again, no rules. You don't have to. You don't have to create anything that is anatomically correct because it's really your call. You know, if you just want to make a tube neck, who's to say you're not able to? And that's what I love about art. I think it's a beautiful thing about art that you can cheat and do what you want. Like put wings on the ears of your characters. And, you know, I mean, I had people in some, you know, comments telling me, well, like wings are not supposed to go in the ears. They're supposed to go behind your head. And I found that really funny because I'm like, well, where have you seen a human with wings out of the, you know, out of the head, out of the back? You know, it's not something I've ever seen. You know, we created that. We created the idea of the look of the angel, you know, with the wings. We're imitating the looks of the birds and animals that fly. So, but there is no rule in art in where you place. If I wanted to place the wings on the feet, I can. And I love when these comments show up because, you know, this is where you create the conversation. Now let's talk about that. Why would an artist do that? And what does that really represent to you? Lively here at the studio today. We have a lot of wonderful noises. Artists are creating. I did not anticipate so much of that. I probably could have brought my microphone. Can always take some out afterwards if it's too bulky, but I'm trying to. I also do think I want to create some kind of a clothing outfit edges in here to make it look like she's wearing a shirt. Let's see if I can add some of this ear wings thing that I created here. Let's see how well the cardboard idea is gonna be. Cement is very dense, is very heavy, so sometimes trying to do the idea of wings that are feathery and light with such a heavy material can feel a little bit like a challenge to me. So I'm gonna see. But at my very first sculpture with this material, I didn't put any armature or paper or anything to support the wings. So this is true for anything you want to add to the sculpture that's really thin and small little bits and details. So when I didn't add anything to it, it just started kind of falling and breaking once it dried. So that was a lesson learned there, to just really to have any kind of support you can have here to hold the, see, because now If I were to just do that on the middle of the air here in between, there's no way that that would have stayed. But now I know that this is gonna hold up much more nicely, and I can actually thin out and create more details around this cardboard feature, you know. You can see I'm doing all of this without water so far, and it's just spreading really nicely. So you have to also remember that the weather where you're at is going to influence a lot of everything through this process. First of all, it might influence on the amount of like how the humidity of the air can change and how the mix is going to feel to you. So understanding the finish that you want this to feel like at the end, it will kind of help you know, for example, if you're using too much cement. Maybe you don't need as much cement. Oh, there you go, look. See, that's pretty nice. And so you start adding little by little, and you know, pay attention to what it's doing. And see, sometimes you don't have to go the 2 cups of the recipe, because like this time, I think I did about 1.5 cups, and I was like, you know what, this feels good. And it's also kind of forgiving. So in terms of like the recipe is gonna work if you're not that perfect with the amounts, but you want to be able to sculpt well. So even though it will dry fine, if you use a little less of this or a little more of that, I believe, tell me if you think I'm wrong with that. I'm no super expert of the true way, the only way. I do believe there's many ways of doing these things, and we're all learning from each other. So I enjoyed that a lot about these things. Oh, this is so exciting. I love it. She's coming to life. Okay, so here she is. So remember I said I really want that whole in there. I think it creates a nice depth, but I am gonna add some hair to her, and I'm still trying to figure out. I think I'm gonna have most of her hair up, kind of creating a bundle in there, but I don't want to make her too heavy over there, so we will see what that's gonna look like. As I start making, I might change my mind over certain things in there, but I'm not sure yet. Remember what I said on my first video, go with the flow. Let the sculpture tell you where to go. Well, we have a thing on the neck here too. You see I go back and forth on stuff. I'm not like super attached to just staying, but her neck is just stretched out, so you don't want to be too... There is more of the neck on the back that has to be added, that I'll show you in a little bit, but right now I'm just like that part in the back in there can be quite complicated. She kind of has that already a little bit, but which is, you know, over on the shoulder, collarbone area. I made this wing a little bit shorter than this one. Don't know if I should cut this one or if I should elongate that one. So many decisions. And isn't it wonderful that we get to make them? These are very affordable materials. If you make a terrible mistake with this one, it won't be just a mistake, it will be a wonderful lesson for moving forward. Don't stay stuck too much trying to fix things in what you're doing. Use what you learn to make an even better one next time, and you will always feel like you are improving and that you are flowing and that you're doing faster and achieving results that you feel like each time you do it, you're gonna feel closer and closer and more to what to a finish point, and you're going to feel more and more confident about your instinctual choices because you'll be more in flow with it. You're not so much in your head about, oh, how do I work this clay, and what is it gonna do, or you're kind of gonna know it better, so you can continue to just kind of concentrate on the making of it and what you want it to look like. And this part right here, you probably can't quite see it, but it's really thin. It's showing some of the paper, but I really don't want her neck to be too thick. I think I added too much paper underneath it. So the way I'm gonna get away with that is that the hair that she's gonna have is what's gonna probably allow me to reinforce that area without looking like she has a really thick, male-ish neck,